Hi all, in this video let's learn about the different ways to handle the JavaScript events. So let's see that. So we have three different ways to handle the JavaScript events. So before learning them, so first of all we need to understand what is an event. Event means whatever the action user does to the system. So if he clicks any of the button, if he fills any of the form, if he fills any of the input field, if he submit the form, entering any of the input text, hovering onto a certain element. So all these things, whatever the actions he do in a web page, in an application, those comes under as a events. Okay, that is an event. So if he does some action, there should be something called event handler or event listener to do the task. If you click a button, what should do? That should that logic should be written in the place of event handler. That will be handled by the event handler. Okay, if clicking a button is an event, handling that button, what should happen when you click that button is handled in an event handler. These two are important. Event is like what you do. Event handler is if you click that button, what should I do? So these two are very important. Fine. So let's discuss about them. Also, I will show you the different ways of creating the events. So the first way, and this is an important way, the first way, let's discuss this. Like here we have a button and we are referring to this button with the document.query element. Fine. So this is a, a random function to pick a random number. So what I'm doing is button dot add event listener. So this is the important way and the best way. It accepts two parameters. The first one is the event. What is the exact event? Okay, it can be a click event, it can be a double click event, mouse over, there are a couple of events. Okay, whatever the event may be, you can keep that here, and that is the first parameter. And the second parameter is a callback method. So what I need to do when this button is clicked, okay, we are referring this button. So this button now we are referring in this variable, and to this variable we are adding an add event listener, and here you can keep whatever the event you want. And in this function you can do, when this button is clicked, what you want to do, that you can do in this function. So here what I'm trying to do is I will call a constant random color, so equal to, so I will call this. So whenever I click this button, I want to modify the color of the document, like body color. I want to modify that. So for that, let's do this. So I will keep RGB. So why I kept RGB is like green, like red, green, blue. So the combination of these three colors can decide the values of the hexa values of a color. So that's the reason what I'm doing is I'm calling this random with the random numbers like this. Okay, three times I will be calling. For each time the red color would be decided and green color would be decided, like that it would be decided. So let me give the all the three colors values here. So I'm giving this random three times 255. Fine. So here, okay, I missed this brace here. Fine, I have added extra brace here. Okay, so now here what I'm doing is I'm trying to create, so yet it was not, yeah, I missed the brace here. I will remove it here. I need to add a tilde here. So in this line, what we are doing is this is an RGB. It means we are trying to give an hexadecimal value, randomly picked value. So that's the reason we are passing these values three times. This is a method random. So you are passing this 255 to here. It will return you back a number. So that number we are keeping here. Okay, and that becomes the red color. So random, so the colors were decided in the combination of red, green, blue. That's the reason we are doing this. And now our purpose of adding these colors is document dot body dot style dot background color. So I'm going to give the background color as this variable. Okay, so now if I click this button, okay, now I want to modify the entire background color of this document. That's what I'm doing here. Fine. So let's see that. So I will refresh this. If I click this, yes, it is modifying. So how many times I click, that many times we'll be getting the random color here. So that's what we have did here. We have kept a random function based on I click it. So now you click that function. So event was triggered. This is an event. When you click that button, an event was triggered. Okay, who is going to handle that event? So this method is going to handle that event. Now this method is known as an event handler, and this click is a event. So now you click that. So this is the first way. So let me explain this in another way. So instead of keeping this like this, you can have this in a separate function. So let me write this in a separate function. Let me say this as bg change, and I will keep this logic inside here. So I will move this logic. So these two lines I will cut and I will keep here. So here, instead of referring like this, what you can do, you can directly keep this method name. So this is also you can do. This is the first way of handling the events. The advantage of doing this with like this is you can add one more event here. So here I can say like a background change, like text change. There can be one more method. Okay, you can write one more method the same like what you wrote here, and you can add that also like this. So when this button is clicked, both of these functions would be executed. That's the advantage of using this first way of adding event listeners. So now let's comment it. So I will comment this part here, and let me show you the second way of adding the events. So now the second way is handling with the event handler properties. So this is the second way of handling the events. So in this way, so what we are going to do is like here, the button is an object. So this button is an object, and this button, so here we have this button, right? This button is an object. This object can have the properties. So what I say, button, this object has a property. See, I say on click. So this is a property. So that's the reason event handler properties. So this button is also an object. This object has a property called on click. To this on click function, so you are writing. So you can write whatever the logic you want here. So let's keep the same logic. So this is the second way. Here you are not adding any of the event listeners. You are directly taking this button object and putting this property and assigning a function. What to happen when this was triggered? So let me copy these two lines. So I will keep here. So when you click that, these two lines should happen. It means it needs to modify the color. Clear? So let me uncomment these two lines. Fine. So button click, direct a button object, and on click directly attaching to this button. Okay, this is known as a event handler property way. So fine, so let's go back and see the output. So it would be the same output. So in terms of output will not change anything, but we are trying to understand what are the different ways of handling the events. So this is another way. So the in this another way, what is like you can't append two triggers like this. You can't do something like this. So with the add event listener, you can attach as many as functions like this, but with the event handler properties, only you can give one method like this at one time. So this is a second way. So let me show you the third way. So I will comment it out. So let me show you the third way. And the third way is nothing but it is an inline event handlers. So this is the third way. So what it is? So in this way, what happens is you will not add any event directly like this. You will go here and you will add to this element on click event. So you will directly add this on click element to here, and you will call a method. Let me call this as bg change because we have already declared that method. So I'm calling this as a bg change. I will enable this method. So this is the third way. This is like inline event handler. So it means you are handling this event in inline. So within this element only you are keeping what is that event handler. Okay, and you are keeping this inside the method. If someone clicks this call, it is going to call this method. So the output would be the same now also. See, whatever I click the change color. So based upon this RGB random color picking, so your background color is modifying that many times. Clear? So this is the third way of adding the events to the elements. So you understood, right? On click element would be given to the elements. So now the first way, second way, third way. So what is the best way? So this second way is an outdated way, and this is a bad practice. You should not use this second way. Okay, adding the properties to the elements is a bad way. And the coming to the third way, this is also a bad way. So you can tell this as a unmanageable and inefficient way to handle the events. So as on when the elements increases, if you are handling them like this, then the code becomes unmanageable and inefficient. Okay, so this is not a recommended way. Handling the events with the inline event handlers is also not a recommended way, because it's not a good idea to mix up both the HTML and the JavaScript. This is a JavaScript code. Okay, this is what the JavaScript attribute. So we need, the good practice is like we need to differentiate or separate out the HTML and the JavaScript separately. Okay, so of course I'm writing everything in a single file. What I mean is you need to keep this script file separately, and you should not include the HTML with the JavaScript. That should, mixing both HTML and JavaScript is not a good idea. And also some people will be writing entire their JavaScript code here itself. Directly they will start writing alert, or they will start writing debuggers. They can write whatever they want, but this is not a good idea. Fine. So these are the three different ways you can, so the best way is like add the add event listener. So this is the best way. And once you add the add event listener to your element, and once your job is done, you can also remove this add event listener with the same like remove event listener. So just you, in the place of add, you can keep the remove event listener. So these are the three different ways in handling the events, and this is the best way you need to pick. Fine. Hope you understand the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more videos.